Broncos country, what is going on? It is your boy Mark here, Marky Sports, man. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Broncos have finalized putting together their practice squad, and not too much crazy news. There's been a little bit of some really interesting tidbits I want to talk about, but the main thing is just going through the practice squad and really getting y'all to understand that even though there's a technical final 53-man roster, it's really about 58 to 60 players deep when you factor in the different rules and what the practice squad allows for teams to do. And funnily enough, Sean Payton just got done with his press conference talking about it. So we'll dive into it. Before we get into it, guys, if it's your first time on the channel, your first time tuning in, welcome. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're a big fan of NFL football, NBA, basketball, NHL, hockey, or you love fantasy sports, hit that subscribe button below, man. It'll really help me out for the channel. But um, yeah, hope you guys enjoy it. So would love to have you guys on the show. Anybody's always welcome on the show at any time. We'll have some great reaction. So the Broncos had put together, it looks like so far they've got 16 out of their eligible 17 players on the practice squad so far. Technically, so the NFL rules are that you get 16 players, but we have one guy in Thomas Yasmin that is international, so he gets an exemption. So he actually is not going to count against the roster overall, which is great news for the Broncos. So that it looks like they still have one additional player that they are able to bring in if necessary. So far, the way that it's looking is, pretty much everybody on the practice squad, with the exception of one player, is somebody that was here during the preseason, right? So Calvin Throckmorton, Michael Bandy, Matt Henningsen, Tanner McAllister, Tyler Beatty, Nick Gargiulo, somebody that we talked about, David Sills, D'Andrea Tillman, which I was really happy about. So we won't necessarily go through the whole list. There's quite a bit of them, but the ones that I think are the most significant and the players that I'm the happiest about are obviously Lil Jordan Humphrey and Michael Burton. Zero surprises there. They had talked about those being guys that will get elevated, most likely elevated for week one. And they add to the versatility in the room. If we need a veteran presence, we need an additional wide receiver. We have them. I'm super stoked about uh, David Sills as well. Not only is he somebody that I just felt like, man, he's constantly making plays, but Sean Payton talked glowingly about him. He said he was one of the first players that we reached out to try to get back on the practice squad, which really tells you he's the last guy that they were making the decision on. And I like his playmaking ability. I think he adds additional. So we have technically five receivers in the 53, but in reality we have eight. We have eight guys that we can go to. The third on the practice squad being Michael Bandy. So we have eight receivers that in a crop that we can work with. I was super happy to see D'Andre Tillman as somebody that we brought back. I was worried he'd be swooped up by somebody. So that makes me feel significantly better about the pass rushing group and the pass rushing room that we have currently. I thought it was weird that we were only having four, but he brings a potentially much needed fifth. So I'm stoked about that one. Now, the one that really and shout out to Matt Henningsen, love that guy. He just seems like such a good dude as well. So be able to get Matt Henningsen back on the team is really great news for the Broncos overall. Um, what was I bummed to see? I was bummed. I was bummed that Samaje went to the Chiefs. I know he wasn't going to be here, but I was bummed to see Samaje go to the Chiefs, and I was heartbroken about my guy Brandon Johnson. Man, I really thought that he'd be back on this practice squad. I think he would have been had he not elected to go elsewhere. He ends up going to the Steelers, I believe. So happy for him, but really sucks and really wish that it was somebody that we could have. But you never know. You never know, man. Injuries, there could be some sort of a reunion uh, at some point. So we'll keep our fingers crossed there. So definitely bummed to see that. And I was bummed to see Demontre Jacobs as well, because I felt like of all of the reserve tackles, he might have been the one that looked the best of all of them. And so he ended up leaving and going to New England. And he actually made the 53, which is awesome. So good for him. He's, I think, a really good, going to be a really good player. Kind of reminded me a lot of Calvin Anderson a few years back. I always liked his potential. It just seemed like he was never given that prime opportunity to be the swing. And ironically, he ended up going to New England too, I think. So, uh, wish him all the best for sure. But what I was pleasantly surprised with and happy to see was the Broncos have brought in former Chargers tight end Donald Parham. Now, I remember reading all about this guy. This guy seemed like he's getting, he's somebody in the red zone they would always go to when he was healthy. Huge player, absolute behemoth, 6'8", 230 plus pounds. He's really like a glorified receiver in terms of his size. And when you look at the way he graded out, he actually graded out to be pretty damn good as a pass and a run blocker as well. But we're stacked in the tight end room, which is kind of crazy to say, considering that was not the case, 6 months ago when we were talking about this room. But you know, I'm interested to see the games that he gets elevated, and I think he'll be somebody that will get elevated minimum 3 times, which is, the most that you can. I think he'll definitely get elevated, 3 times and potentially could be on this roster down the road. But he's an interesting player, a huge red zone target, not just because, like, on paper, he looks like he's a good red zone target. You look at his numbers, and he's a very, very good red zone target. I think I saw something like along the lines of like he had 30 targets in the red zone in his career. He had 17 touchdowns and like 17 catches and like 8 or 9 touchdowns in the red zone. So he is somebody that once he gets acclimated, they get his feet wet, they learn a little bit more about him. He might be able to be a really big contributor to this team. I really like that signing a lot. Um, and I think the more weapons and the more talent that you can add to the team, the better. So that pretty much wraps it up. I think we have one more spot. If I had to take a guess, it's probably going to be for an inside linebacker. There was a report yesterday that the Broncos were interested in adding to that room. They did make a claim, I believe, but no one really knows who it was. It's pretty easy if you read through the tea leaves. If it was for a linebacker, there was only two that they could have put the claim in that they would have lost the claim on. One guy went to New England. One guy went to Tennessee. I don't really have their names in front of me, but um, so we'll see. We'll see what they end up rounding it out. But overall, no surprises, and I definitely love the way that this is shaping out. One thing in looking in the Sean Payton press conference today was really interesting. First thing that really stood out to me, man, his energy again. He was happy. He spoke to the media for like 30 minutes. He just seems rejuvenated, and I like to see that version of Coach Payton heading into the season. Another thing he had talked about, which I was pretty surprised by, was he hyped up Frank Crum a lot. He said, "Listen, I know that you guys all saw the sacks that he gave up. It didn't look good, but he talked about having ridiculous talent and traits that they said there's no way they could risk losing him." He said that he wasn't even someone that they thought about not having on the team. So that's high praise. He said Zach Strief loves him. And this is somebody that, he's obviously going to be in a developmental role, but hearing those kinds of things is a huge positive um, as he develops into this role, as he, looks to one day be a solution for us or a full time starter at a tackle position when it comes, when comes the time. I think he's similar to Luke Wattenberg. Luke Wattenberg as a rookie in the preseason looked horrendous, and in his second year last year, he looked way improved way improved. And then he took a big leap, and now he's a starting center. And so I think you're going to see a huge leap from Frank Crum year one to year two. But excited to see how he develops. And you never know, man. With Garrett Bowles' future in the air after this year, he could end up being the starter. So that was great to see. And then he talked a lot about Troy Franklin too, man. He said the guy is really smart. He's a hard worker. He asks great questions. He's got a lot of physical traits and tools that they really like, and so they could, they might be able to really utilize him in a unique role too. I don't know how often he'll be activated on game days, but I think once he really gets comfortable and gets cooking, it might be a quicker development for Troy Franklin than maybe we're all thinking. So that those are always good things to hear as well. And then he had mentioned somebody else, and he talked about Joker traits, and it was Devon Vele, and he had said what they really liked about him was he could play inside, he could play outside. He does a lot of the things that Tim Patrick was doing for the team and that they had planned for Tim Patrick to do. They said he does it very well, and he's younger. And I take that as he does it pretty much just as well, but he's younger. Uh, and there's a little bit more of a ceiling there. So feeling a lot better about the wide receiver room as well, especially given that we got those 3 guys on the practice squad. I like the depth because you can kind of rotate and work with it as needed as well. So It was just interesting that we as Broncos fans, we can't get too caught up and too worried about, "Oh my gosh, who are we losing? Who do we end up waiving?" Because you get it back on the practice squad, and it's almost as if they're, you know, a part of the active roster. So yeah, there's that, and then there was someone else that popped up in the that he talked about as well. I just can't remember it, so forgive me for that one. If it comes to my mind, I'll bring it up. But just like all my videos, guys, nothing's edited, nothing's scripted. I don't even take notes for the videos. I just go off the top and talk about what I feel like at the particular moment. I don't even plan when I'm going to film them. So hopefully, hopefully that's fun for you guys to watch, and hopefully it's entertaining. Um, yeah. Additionally, there's a couple number changes. So I never really know how the number change rules work. Like if they have to choose them by a certain time, or if guys that get cut but go back to the practice squad, can they lose their number? I don't really know how it works. But so far, Audric Estime has changed his number from 37 to 25. Sorry, to 23, which 23 is a cool number, but I feel like 37 matched him a lot better. But he's rocking the Jordan number, so don't get confused when you see number 23 on the sidelines. You're like, who the hell is that guy? Even though he's going to be hard to not recognize, given that he's a beast. Um, he is now 23, and Blake Watson has gone from the dreaded, horrifying number 43 to number 25. So he takes P Ryan's job, and he takes P Ryan's number. Um, and so we're rolling with that. Otherwise, it does. And then David Sills actually on the practice squad, he got a new number. David Sills is now 13, I believe. Yep. And then another one that was noted that changed his number was my Tyler Beatty. Tyler Beatty is now number 28. So there was a couple number changes. Now, like guys like Troy Franklin, who I thought might change his number, didn't. So I don't know if that means he won't, but for those of you guys that care about jersey numbers, I have a weird obsession with it. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I was really wanting to see who would change and what would happen. It looks like Jonah Ellis is going to remain at 52, which I dig that number for him a lot. Lavelle Bailey's staying with the same number. So I had a prediction sheet, and let's just say I was completely wrong. Um, but unless that changes, we won't have to hear about that from me no more. Yeah. So that pretty much wraps that all up, guys. I'm super pumped. Can't wait to start breaking down some of the Seattle stuff, talking about key points to the game, talking about some things to look out for, and then ultimately a prediction. We'll spend the next couple days putting out a lot of fantasy football content as well before you guys are drafting. If you guys are drafting, it's still too early to draft, but I guess you can start now since there is no more games. So if you guys are starting that, check some of the videos out. Anything fantasy related you want to see, let me know. Hit me up in the comments. I'll be more than happy to give you some suggestions. Do I have a reputation like a lot of these so-called gurus and a lot of these people that do rankings and stuff? No, but I can assure you, put your trust in me. I think you're going to be happy when it comes to fantasy. It's just kind of what I do. So appreciate it, guys. Have a wonderful day, man. Spend time with those people that you love the most. And my high salute, everybody. Until next time.